Good afternoon and welcome. On this historic day at Morehouse College, I have the very great honor of introducing our 2005 baccalaureate speaker. He is an alumnus whose many outstanding achievements have made us exceedingly proud, the Reverend Jamal Harrison Bryant. A member of the Morehouse class of 1994, Reverend Bryant is founder and pastor of the Empowerment Temple in Baltimore, Maryland, the fastest growing African-American Episcopal congregation in the nation with more than 6,000 members. Reverend Bryant, who served as director of the NAACP's Youth and College Division before accepting his call to the ordained ministry, is a pastor with a global mission and a particular focus on youth. Perhaps he is so effective at motivating young people because he himself, and this is correct, failed the 11th grade and dropped out of high school. And then later, earning a bachelor's degree from Morehouse College and a Master of Divinity degree from Duke University, Reverend Bryant is a living, breathing example of the fact that one can truly overcome obstacles and succeed in life. Even more, in your program it says he is currently pursuing a PhD in theology from Oxford University in England. Well, last week he received his PhD from Oxford. Powerful speaker, Reverend Bryant has been featured in several national publications, appeared on a number of well-known television programs, and hosts himself a weekly broadcast, Power for Life, that airs in the United States, the Caribbean, England, and in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome back home to Morehouse our 2005 baccalaureate speaker, the Reverend Dr. Jamal Harrison Bryant.
Trapped in the tension between time and eternity, 2004 AD. The scene was in Athens, Greece, where the entire global village tuned in to see the opening of the Centennial Olympic Games. They watched, cheering on, as the light was in fact found itself flickering once more and again. All the cameras were rolling from around the world. Representatives from over 72 nations were in attendance at that great Coliseum. At the end of the hour, after all of the teams got back on their vans and went back to their respective places of lodging, the cameras were shutting down, the lights were being turned off. But then in the distance, they saw another runner staggering into the Coliseum. Some of the sports analysts were laughing and jeering to themselves, asking, here we are over 3 hours after the ceremonies, and he's still trying to come in to the games. One sports reporter stayed with him and watched him as he saw that there was blood trickling from his elbow, saw that there was a gash in his knee, but he's still staggering towards that flickering light. After it is that he completed, that sports reporter stuck a microphone in his mouth and asked him, why in the world, after everything is finished, are you still staggering towards the end? After the cameras are now gone home, after the hoopla has concluded, after all of the well-wishers have found themselves now looking for some rest, that runner from Tanzania looked straight into the camera and said, I am a runner from Tanzania. I did not come 7,000 miles to start a race. I came 7,000 miles to finish a race. And in this Martin Luther King International Chapel, you have before you some 400 proud men who did not come to Morehouse to start a degree, but they've come to finish a degree. And we come to celebrate them. To President Massey, I thank you for honoring and humbling me with this auspicious opportunity. To the Board of Trustees, I extend to you flapping accolades and exceeding gratitude for allowing me to, in fact, stand and have the unmitigated nerve to say I speak on God's behalf. To Dean Chapel, to Dean Carter, I thank you for being a gatekeeper for ecumenical excellence in an arena and in an economy of spirituality where prayer has, in fact, found itself as a lost doldrum of despair. We have come today to rejoice, to understand that weeping can only endure for a night, but joy has got to come tomorrow morning. I'll never forget my freshman week here at Morehouse College, which was embedded into us the words of our former gracious president, Dr. Benjamin Elijah Mays, who said, "The tragedy in life is not reaching your goals, but having no goals to reach." Said the calamity in life is not that you didn't reach the stars, but you had no stars to reach for. Said the greatest tragedy in life is not failure, but the greatest tragedy is low aim, and low aim is sin. Dean Carter, you have to understand that in the Maysian hermeneutic of sin, the sin is, in fact, having low aim. This is, in fact, a different perspective from the Apostle Paul, who understood that sin was, in fact, falling short and not getting towards the mark, as it is that he etched in the epistles. But what Benjamin Elijah Mays wanted to leave as a legacy for the men who would come through Morehouse College is that beyond having, in fact, a nice car and having a six-figure salary, beyond having the bling, beyond living in the suburbs, I want you to aim high. And that is, in fact, the mandate that is lauded towards these 2005 graduates, that there is a crown above your head that you've got to grow tall enough to wear. That this is an institution. This is an institution that is not in the business of manufacturing players and pimps and hustlers. But this is the institution that is about changing lives and revolutionizing the thought process, not just of Atlanta, Georgia, but even around the world. There is a great and a scathing indictment amongst our men that deals with the theme of being underestimated. For any biblicists in the building, you are acutely aware of that great pericope in 1 Samuel chapter 17, wherein we find that there is, in fact, a Philistine giant by the name of Goliath, who hovers tall at 9 feet and 9 inches, who is, in fact, a great proportioned piece of protoplasm. He is, in fact, a man of tremendous girth and tremendous capability. And there comes across the hill, there comes a young man from Morehouse who didn't take steroids, a young man from Morehouse who did not cheat his way through, a young man from Morehouse who believed in the possibilities. And they went to President Massey of that time and said, "Put me in the fight." And Goliath, who was, in fact, a great manifestation of corporate America, a great manifestation of racism, a great manifestation of economic inequity, a great manifestation of zip code redlining, a great manifestation of an agenda to keep the poor poorer and the rich richer, said, "How in the world are you going to get that young man who, in fact, found his way getting through a historically black college on set-asides and federal aids and grants and loans? How is he going to fight me?" And some young man from Morehouse said, "Put me in. I got what it takes to fight the system and turn it upside down on its head." That Philistine giant said, "How can he possibly fight me?" He doesn't have the background. He doesn't have the pedigree. He doesn't have the finance. He doesn't have all of the great accoutrements of a capitalistic society. But what he had, different from every other soldier on that battleground, was some fight. And my dear Morehouse brothers, I pray that as you exceed lofty heights of success, that you don't lose your fight. I hope that you understand there's more in life than getting a S500 sitting on 22s. I hope that you understand there's more in life than having a platinum Rolex on your wrist. I hope you understand there's more in life than having your picture after you get married in Jet magazine. But I pray that in your life that you are able to do something that will confound the wisdom of this world. You have the capacity with your great intellectual prowess to find the cure for HIV. You have the capacity to find the cure for cancer. You have the capacity to serve as a mentor for some young boy who doesn't have a father figure in his house. You have the capacity to let America know that there is a greater mandate on our lives than singing and rapping and dancing and playing basketball. But you have the capacity to say, I think, therefore I am. It's a terrible thing to be underestimated, and perhaps many of you who are here under the sound of my voice have never been underestimated. But as President Massey alluded to, I've been underestimated before. In 1988, I was a student at Baltimore City College Preparatory High School, and I failed out of that high school. And I'll never forget my exit interview when they were putting me out of the school with my parents there. My advisor said to my parents, put your son in trade school. He doesn't have the capacity to go to college and do anything intellectual. But I thank God that I had praying parents, and my praying parents knew that there was more to me than what my teachers could see. They said, your son is caught in the pendulum. He's not sure whether or not he wants to be Eddie Murphy or Martin Luther King Jr., whether or not he wants to be a class clown or a civil rights activist. I flunked out of high school and I had to go get a GED. And Dean Carter, I came here for the early college preparatory program. I was sponsored by a Morehouse man by the name of Mr. Paul Walker from Columbia, Maryland. He wrote a letter to the Dean of Admissions and said, this young man has some potential. I completed all of the work from the early college program, and I applied to Morehouse, this great institution, and they told me they don't let men into Morehouse with GEDs. So I went back home brokenhearted and disheartened. But the day before school opened, I got a call from the admissions office that said a young man who was scheduled to come to Morehouse at the last minute changed his mind. If you can get here tomorrow, you can get into school. Four years later, I graduated from Morehouse College. 3 years thereafter, I graduated from Duke University. 7 years after that, I graduated from Oxford University with a PhD. And I don't know how you understand the miracle of God, but the woman who told me I wasn't going to be anything is now a member of my church, because God can do anything. There is something about being underestimated. If you don't understand my example, biblically, there is 3 Morehouse men by the name of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego who found themselves in a fiery furnace, and all of their community didn't think they were going to come out alive. But you knew that they were Morehouse men, because you can tell a Morehouse man, but you can't tell them much. And they made up in their minds, no matter what happens, we're not going to bow down. And King Nebuchadnezzar looked in the fiery furnace and said, we put 3 Morehouse men in, but on graduation day, I see 4 Morehouse men coming out. If you don't believe that example, I remember 2,000 years ago of the consummate Morehouse man by the name of Jesus Christ. They hung him high and they stretched him wide. He hung his head and then he died. But 3 days later, like any good Morehouse man, he got up with all power in his hands. There's power in being underestimated. When you understand that who you are is not predicated on what other people think of you. Who you are has nothing to do with how your family supported you or didn't support you. When you understand who you are is greater than your economic background. Who you are is greater than your address. Who you are is greater than what fraternity you pledge. Who you are is greater than your last name. But the Bible says greater is he that is within me than he that is within the world. And so I got on a plane from Baltimore, Maryland this afternoon to fly to see 400 strong Morehouse men graduate into their destiny. And so because I am a gospel preacher, and gospel means good news, I cannot leave you in a bad state of affairs. But I came to tell you, in the event you've been underestimated, I got good news. In the event there were some people who didn't believe in you, I got good news. In the event there was somebody that didn't support you, I got good news. In the event that your family didn't think you were going to graduate, I got good news. What's the good news, preacher? I saved a bunch of money on car insurance.